Hello, I'm Justina Vale Evans with Envision Global Leadership, or EGL as it's known. I'm here today with our founder and CEO, Dr. Jeff Evans. Thank you for being here, Jeff.
Pleasure, thank you.
So Jeff, you're the architect of a number of leadership multi-raters and self-assessments, and these assessments measure the leadership behaviors necessary to build high-performing organizations. And one of these assessments is the Leadership Multi-Rater, or LMR, that
Yes.
which you've used to great effect with corporate clients for many, many years.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, and have recently started certifying practitioners to use this as well.
Right.
So I have a few questions for you. Tell me, what prompted the creation of the LMR?
That's a great question. With all the multi-raters and assessments that there are on the market, the reason that we did it, we were working with these very senior executives, mid-level senior, getting ready, people ready to lead at the top levels of organizations. And we could find assessments that dealt with individual characteristics, small parts of a person that related to leadership, but we couldn't find anything that looked at the overall comprehensive set of not only who am I, but how do I work with other people? And that was the missing element for us. And so we had to put together something that looked at what are the essential elements for me? How do I work with others? How do I engage others across time and space? So it's very comprehensive, very specific, but very deep inside of those areas. It doesn't cover business skills and all those kinds of things. So that's the reason we did it. There was a gap in our ability to be able to work with our leaders, and we needed to fill it. So we created this particular assessment and have used it now for many years very successfully.
Great. So that sounds really interesting. And I'm interested to know, it seems like many companies have their own 360. So
True.
My next question for you is, what makes the LMR different?
It's a great question. Again, and yes, most of the large companies you go to will have their own 360 that they've developed, and those are fantastic. So we actually don't try and replace those. We work supplemental. It's an additive component, and it's a smaller element. While 360s internally typically go across the whole population, and they're based on measuring conformance to the internal values or particular behaviors or attributes that that company needs in that particular element, where they can get evaluation data, and the leaders or the people who are taking this can get feedback from others around how they're doing in those areas. So they're internally referenced, and you can't generalize the findings from them. Our LMR is built on external competencies of research around the world of what makes a leader successful at these in leading a high-performing organization, independent of which company they're in. It's just what works with people. And so our reference set is outside the company, and it's related to the behavioral profile only. Now, one of the other things about it is that it is we call it non-judgmental, in that we're not asking people to rank you in terms of, you're really great or you're not good, and we don't take comments and things like that that can make the process so kind of hard for people. But it's also, we want it to be incredibly actionable, and that when those actions are taken, that we can reasonably assume that the organization performance will follow accordingly. So we want it to be as accurate as possible.
So what I'm hearing, I think, is that generally 360s out there inside organizations are used in a way that includes opinions, the opinions of the population, and which can be very biased and
That's true.
And some people don't really work with someone, they just have a faraway opinion.
Right.
It sounds like the LMR is really based on just observed behavior without the judgment part of it.
Right. We want to know how often a particular behavior is observed. as opposed, and the other thing that we do in this is we don't have any questions that say that the person says that this is definitely a strength or definitely a weakness or any of those aspects, or particularly not evaluating whether it's important for their job. As a leader, there are things that are important and they are universal. And sometimes organizations don't know how important that is. So we want to go against this external research set to provide often what the organization doesn't know they don't know.
Okay. So if I were to take the LMR, kind of give me an idea of what the experience of taking an LMR would be like.
Thanks. So as with anything, there's still the element of we go in and we ask a number of people to fill out an online survey, an instrument that rates their observation of these behaviors. Now, because they are behaviorally based, they're just, here's a behavior, and do I experience that? Nearly never to always, almost always. So it's not any kind of evaluation in that. It's
right.
Just, here's what my deal is.
So the rating part of it is literally how often I might see that, rather than it's good, bad, or ugly, or
right, yeah. Or or you're great at it or you're terrible at it, and those kinds of things. And so the individual who takes it would go in and they would actually fill out their own, which has more questions than the people in their rater set. We'll get a larger rater set, maybe 12 to 20 people, so that we get a higher validity in this, and it's very strong in what you get. So during that time, people would fill out their surveys, at the end of which you get a written report. It's electronic, 48 pages or so. It's like an operator's manual for a leader. So that if you're trying to build your way into the next level of performance, you can go like this as a map and say, I need more of this, and keep doing this, and stop doing this, and build a detailed plan to kind of engineer your way to the next level of performance. With that, you get a debrief from one of our trained coaches, and second, you would then get a detailed action plan where we would narrow that down. So you would have, if you were taking this, you'd have a set of the 2-3 things that you most need to work on with the whole actionable elements. Where am I going to do it? With whom? How often? How will I know it's working? Pieces like that. And the cool thing about our assessment is it's so reliable. We can come back a year later, year and a half later, and run it again and actually measure your progress. It's test retest is valid enough to be able to do that.
Wow, sounds fantastic. It would be a very actionable, here's what I'm missing, here's what I need to add in, and, with the consultant's help, how I might do that.
Right. Yeah. I had a very senior manager in a large company recently described, after going through the experience, saying, this is amazing. I never knew how much I needed to do. And here's the complete guide to being a leader in these corporate environments. Like he described it, as an operating manual. So I need to know more about this, and here's the section to describe it, and then with the help to say, how do I implement that in myself? But
tailored for the person.
Tailored for the person.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We have to wrap this up. Jeff, your insights were very interesting into this powerful leader assessment tool. So we really appreciate it. And until next time, please stay well, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Pleasure.